What's up? It is Dan and Randip, and the Canucks this week. Well, there's a lot with the Vancouver Canucks, and there's breaking news. Jim Rutherford is coming in as president and interim general manager of the Vancouver Canucks. Randip, your first immediate reaction.
My first immediate reaction is it's good because the Vancouver Canucks do need a veteran voice. They need somebody who's been there, done that, to set the culture in the organization. This is a person that has won 3 Stanley Cups. This is with multiple franchises, I should mention as well. This is an individual with pedigree, something that the Vancouver Canucks do need. And I'm not talking specifically about the resume. I'm talking about how they can change the organization, how they can change maybe some of the culture that was set over the last 8 years. We know that was a problem. Stan Smeel mentioned that for the Canucks, where a change was needed. Rutherford does bring that. He brings that accountability. He brings that success. Now the question is, what's his role and for how long? So I like it in the short term because it can definitely set that culture. But for the future as well, this guy is 72 years old. He does provide a veteran voice for some of those younger executives that they do have at the Vancouver Canucks, Ryan Johnson and Daniel Henrik-Sedin. So I like this move, especially for the short term.
Yeah, as Elliot Friedman reported, president and interim general manager, the plan is to look for a younger general manager that they can mentor into the job. And, we know here in Vancouver that the Sedins have been looked at as eventual successors. Are they ready for that? Nobody seems to feel like they are. And even the Sedins probably don't yet feel like they are. Ryan Johnson has been tipped as a guy that could be a big general manager somewhere. ESPN Emily Kaplan reported that over the summer when she did her look into the next ones when it comes to general manager candidates. And so there is a good amount of support here around Jim Rutherford as he comes in. But the biggest thing about the Jim Benning and John Weisbrod era was a lack of leadership. And you heard that a lot over the last week. You heard that when it came to the COVID outbreak last year. Where was that voice that was helping this team through? Who was communicating with the players as to what was going to happen, the schedule going forward? All of these things were massive for the franchise, and they were just really lacking it in the Jim Benning era. One of his biggest downfalls was communication. You hope that Jim Rutherford, the experience that he brings, the 3 Stanley Cups, setting a program up in Pittsburgh and in Carolina, those are things that this team has desperately needed. And that's why I kind of like the Jim Rutherford hire. But there is some questions here, Randy, from a process standpoint and what it means, because you look at his track record through Pittsburgh and he was always going for it. And I think that hints at what Canucks ownership feels like this team should be doing in the next few years.
Let there be no mistake. Jim Rutherford is a gunslinger. If you look at his moves in Pittsburgh, right, he is ready to go. He's ready to win immediately. And you go back to the Carl Hagelin move. You go back to the Phil Kessel move. He doesn't necessarily, wait for tomorrow. It's about today. So when you look at the Canucks,
you can't just mention the good ones, Randip. He used a lot of first round picks in Pittsburgh. Derek Brassard, Ryan Reeves. There was some ill-guided moves by Jim Rutherford as well.
And there was one that benefited the Canucks. Erica Branson for Tanner Pearson, who ended up being a very good player for the Vancouver Canucks over the last couple of years anyways, compared to Erica Branson. So yes, there has been some bad moves, no doubt about that, but it does tell you what Francesco Aquilini wants to do with this core. JT Miller is on he's essentially got 18 months on his deal. So does Bo Horvat. You're looking at a window to win here with this core. So you pick up Jim Rutherford because you want to maximize that. You want to maximize what you have in Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. So any talk about a rebuild in the next couple of years and moving off these players, forget about it. Jim Rutherford is a gunslinger. He doesn't, show up to rebuild. He shows up to go, and he shows up to compete. So for the next 2 years, we can debate whether the Vancouver Canucks are a good team or not, but you know what Jim Rutherford's MO is. It's to make this team competitive.
I think this is so much about, of course, Jim Rutherford and the culture that we talked about, but his support staff is going to be really important. It was pretty well known around the league that their analytics group in Pittsburgh was not or it was actually more built out than some people had thought of. But over time, Jim Rutherford maybe didn't look at it as he did early on in his Pittsburgh career. And maybe that's where the move started to get worse as time went on. And you saw it affect the Pittsburgh roster. He won 2 cups, so you can't really take that away from him. But this is a team that is the core. Ownership believes in the core. Okay. They believe Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes are players that you absolutely build around. Are they going to be trading first-round picks left, right, and center? No, but Jim Rutherford is the guy that will make a bold move. Whether that's, trying to make a hockey trade for Tyler Myers or a Brock Besser. I don't know what it exactly looks like, but you can't deny he was able to make creative moves consistently up against the salary cap in Pittsburgh and find ways to try and make his team better. That's exactly the route that the Canucks want to take. It is a dangerous one because it potentially puts future assets at risk, which Jim Benning had already been doing. And you do have a timeline on the players that you mentioned previously, Miller and Horvat. So how are you, Rutherford's got to come in here quick and decide who are my horses, who do I want to stick with, and who am I going to make available to try and make that bold move. He's got options, but he's got to figure out who are those players and who are the guys he's going to move forward with.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the core with, the Vancouver Canucks, and where obviously the Pittsburgh Penguins had success was with their 2-star players. Throw Chris Letang into that, Phil Kessel. But one thing to note with the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, when they were winning cups, they were really good around the fringes as well, right? They picked up some good players, developed them through Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. That was a thing that, Rutherford's teams did as well. And let's not forget about the deals for Marcus Pettersson and John Marino. These are players that he essentially got for free. So this is going to be about maximizing the core, but is he able to make those bold moves and maybe shake up the team? But is he able to win around the fringes, which is something the Canucks haven't necessarily been able to do the last couple of years. And so I like this because this is an individual that will be looking 10 kilometers down the road, hopefully, for the Vancouver Canucks, something that they've been lacking from a president of hockey ops role. But there is, some positivity here. I know there's negativity as well because people are worried about what kind of bold moves he'll do. But there is some, positivity here as well because he does provide something that the Canucks haven't had for a very long time, and that is a direction, a vision, and a long-term view. You're not in the here and now. You're not living day to day, as Jim Benning told us on the People's Show. You're living more long-term, and that is important for this Canucks organization based on what we've seen the last 8 years.
So from 2014 to 2021, the Pittsburgh Penguins have drafted twice in the first round. Kasperi Kapanen and Sam Poulin. Every other year, that pick has been traded. The Canucks right now traded their last 2 first-round picks. You wonder if that's part of the strategy moving forward. But Rutherford at 72, experience is certainly what we all felt this organization needed to some level. I think the big question now is, what do they do with GM? As it says, or as Elliott reported, interim GM and president. That's what Jim Rutherford is going to be. What do you think would be a good pairing with Jim Rutherford from a stylistic perspective, Randip? What do you think would the Canucks be looking for in that spot?
Yeah, it's really early in the game, and I remember something that Francesco Aquilini told the media last week. It was earlier this week, and it has to come in with a tandem. You have to, if you're hiring a president of hockey ops with a GM, there has to be a relationship there beforehand. They have to have a good relationship. So Jim Rutherford, you start rolling through who's worked with him in the past. That's a pretty key element here, right? So, I'm using Francesco Aquilini's own words here. So internally, I really like Ryan Johnson. I think he's going to be a pretty good executive and GM at some point in the NHL. But if you look at Francesco Aquilini's own words, which he used this week, of having a relationship beforehand, who is that individual? Is it a Jason Botterill? Is it a, somebody
that's the name I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I know he's AGM in Seattle, but
he got a better job.
He got poached from Rutherford in Pittsburgh by the Buffalo Sabres. It obviously didn't go well for Botterill in Buffalo, but he's now with the Seattle Kraken. That would be the name I think a lot of people first gravitate to.
And even though he's had experience in this league, he's still young compared to a lot of GMs across the league. So that Jason Botterill is the name that pops up for me. But like I said, I like Ryan Johnson. I think he's going to be a good GM in the NHL somewhere. Maybe that's Vancouver. So I would actually look internally. But if you look at what the owner said, you got to start looking outside of Vancouver potentially.
The Canucks making their big hire. Jim Rutherford, president and interim general manager. What do you like about it? Do you not like it? Let us know in the comments. We respond to as many as we can. We'll hopefully have Jim Rutherford on the People Show at some point on Sportsnet 650. Subscribe to the podcast. We do appreciate it. And of course, subscribe to Sportsnet on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.